Hi, this is Chris with Sheepdog Church Security. One of the questions I get asked quite a bit is what kind of firearm is most appropriate, or how should people want to pick out a firearm for working in a safety ministry? Now, one of the pieces of advice that I often give is buy the largest caliber round for the frame size you'll actually carry. Now, I'm going to get into that a little bit more here in a minute, but first I have kind of two disclaimers. Disclaimer number one is the assumption here is that you've done everything you're legally responsible to do to carry a firearm, to possess one. So this video is not going to cover state laws and all that good stuff. It's up to you to know that. The other thing is I know there's a lot of people out there that are gun guys, if you will. You know a lot about firearms, you know a lot about ammunition, you certainly have some strong opinions on that, and that's fantastic. This video is really not for you unless you just like to watch me ramble on. This video is more for people that are kind of new to firearms, maybe you own one or two handguns, and you're considering, what's going to work better for you at your church. So we're just going to kind of cover some of those things to think about, if you will. So the first thing is you have to consider size of a weapon. So this is a full-size H&K 9mm. Obviously, like I said, it's full size. It's a good weapon, good round. I carry it on duty. But as you can see, the problem that you might run into is this weapon, depending on your body size, might be a little difficult to conceal. It'll be uncomfortable. It won't be something that you want to carry every day. And that's one of the things that we have to think about is, if you have this nice weapon and it's at home, it's not doing you any good. You need a weapon you're going to carry. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, here's a Beretta 25 that I own. Clearly a lot smaller than this. Obviously, this is a lot easier to conceal on your body. In fact, it's tiny. I've used this several times when I'm just running a quick errand. I throw it in my pocket. And the reason I think that it's good, not only easy to conceal, but it's so convenient. There's no reason in the world for me to leave the house without a gun. And that's the way you kind of have to approach this. Yes, certainly a full-size weapon is a great weapon to have. Great for home defense. And depending on your body type, maybe you can conceal this. Maybe you can carry it around. But for most people, it's not. And so, this in your nightstand is not as good as this in your pocket. And that's one of the things many of you have heard me say before. A 22 in your pocket's better than a 9 in the nightstand. My personal experience is I used to own a Kel-Tec 9. And it was my backup weapon. Well, guess what? I didn't wear it. I never took it any place with me. So what a waste, right? It's not a good gun for me. So first thing to consider is consider the size of the weapon itself. I'm talking dimensions here, the size of the frame. Now, one bad thing about these small calibers, as we just discussed, is basically the size of the round. Now, we could really get into, calibers, what the damage that rounds cause, penetration, permanent and temporary wound, cavity that we could also discuss, it really goes on and on. And we're not really going to do that here because I think there's a bit of just being a little bit obvious here is clearly the larger the round, the more damage that it's going to cause, right? So here's the 40, clearly a large round. And you can see the diameter of it as opposed to the 25. That's a big difference there. And so when you go to a smaller round like this, one of the concerns, of course, is your penetration, the amount of damage, really drops. And in some cases, especially small rounds like this, you could have those rounds bouncing off people's heads or bouncing off their sternum. And if that's the round that you need to take down that active threat, well, obviously, you're in trouble. But once again, a 25 in your pocket is better than none at all. Now, the next thing is just considering some other options. So this is a subcompact Sig that I like to carry. My pastor actually bought it for me. Makes for a great pastor. But it's 9mm. It's a good round. It's a good weapon. It's dependable. One of the things for me, in my humble opinion, 9mm is about the smallest round you want to go on the offense. And what I mean by that is you're working safety team and an active shooter comes into your church. If you're going to be part of the engagement team, you're part of moving towards the threat to take them out. I wouldn't want to do that with any weapon smaller than a 9mm. However, once again, if this frame size is too big for you, obviously you're going to need to step down a little bit. Now, one of the things, this is actually my wife's gun, I actually love it, is this is a Ruger LCP. It's a 380. If you compare the size of the rounds, you can see they basically have the same diameter. Please forgive the ball ammunition here. But you can see, based on the size of them, clearly the 9mm has a lot more powder behind it, which means it has a lot more power. And so it's going to penetrate the skull, it's going to penetrate bones and things to that effect, where this is not. Well, this is a great weapon, and certainly if this is the size of the weapon that you want to own and that you'll actually carry every single day, by all means, knock yourself out, get it. Just realize that this is very likely a retreat weapon more than anything else. And like I said, this is my wife's gun, and her instructions in a bad situation is to do whatever she needs to do to get out of the danger area. So it's a good gun. So that's just some thoughts to consider. Think about the size of the weapon. Think about the caliber size of what's going to work for you best. You know, obviously, the larger the round, the more damage. The smaller the round, the less damage. And kind of keep that 9mm size in mind. That if you're going to be working safety ministry and people are relying on you to eliminate a threat, I would say stick with the 9. So thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, be careful out there.